Okay, so the place I normally get steel is closed until the new year. I put the swing arm back on the frame, and I was going to start getting the frame into the frame jig, but I can't until I get some DOM tubing. So, I'm eager to work on something, so I think I'm going to shave the front wheel. And I had an idea for an overfill tube because I'm not using the front legs and this has the brake mounts on it. I'm going to turn the front lower into the coolant overflow. And so we will shave the front wheel and make this overflow tube. So I've got the front axle set up in the pedestal vise, and then I put the spacer in behind so the wheel bearing has something nice to ride against. And then all I'm going to do is cut the flange off and then use a sanding disc to get it all pretty. When I did this on my 600, I didn't have a big vise or a nice welding table or anything to do it on, so all I did was I had the front forks in the frame and then I flipped it over like a BMX bike and just did it in the fork tubes. It worked really good. When you're cutting aluminum or grinding aluminum or working with aluminum, you want to wear a respirator because this stuff is really bad for you. Gets into your lungs, your body doesn't break it down. Shorten your life, you die. Wear a respirator or at least a dust mask because that's all I'm going to be wearing. A little tip is to use some soap, bar soap on your sanding pad when you're doing aluminum, and then it won't gum up your sanding disc as much. It's a little cattywampus, but I won't tell anybody if you don't. I think the guy just needs to flat spot here just to make it match. There. Perfect. That's a 17-inch spool now. So I got this fork apart, and I'm going to let this lower soak in a tub of degreaser or simple green or something for the night, just because it's got oil inside and it's dirty around here. Let that soak, and then tomorrow I'll start machining this down. And then tomorrow I'll machine the fender mounts off, and then I'll cut this end off, probably weld that, and we'll see about a cap. Sweet. Now I know that you can cut the fender tabs off before you start turning, but I was so sick of grinding aluminum at this point that I just decided to turn it right down. And then I don't have a left-hand turning tool, so I just ended up turning my normal one upside down and running the lathe in reverse. Oh! Do I cut this side or do I cut this side? This side. Nice. That's good for the fucking camera, hey? Smashed her. Can you do autofocus? Autofocus? Ah, I broke it. Oh yeah, that's a broken camera. I fixed the camera. I had to hold it a little weird here, but I was just facing the end. All this aluminum was pretty dirty after 20 years of road grime and oil, so the welds weren't particularly pretty. Ooh.
And then after welding the end of this, the material got super gummy and my surface finish was just horrible on the lathe. I ended up having to run through all the grits of sandpaper, Scotch-Brite to make it look decent.
After all that work, it slipped in the chuck. So I'm gonna have to fill those with weld, smooth everything out, sand it all down. I was just trying to face this down a little bit more, and it caught the tip, jumped up in the chuck, jammed in. So I'll show you when that's done. I got her done. I fill welded those spots and ended up cutting this down, facing it nice and square, and I shaped this top tab because that's where the fender mount was. I think it looks pretty good. Looks alright. Not too shabby. I have this piece of aluminum that I found. I'm going to make a cap out of this. It's quite a bit bigger, so it's going to be a lot of turning to get down to cap size, but I think I'm just going to throw this in there and see what I can make. There, that's good. We got her within 3.5, 4. There's a low spot in there somewhere right there, but I'm gonna throw a center in there and then we'll start turning. You have to unload the chips after every pass because aluminum's so stringy. Not as tight as I would have liked it, but we will change that.
I just trial and error this O-ring groove until it fits alright, and then I transfer the depth with an indicator. I'm sure there's a mathematical formula to figure out a groove, but I don't know it.
Now when I pull this out, all I have to do is work back to that same 0. It's going to be slightly off just because the tool holder is not completely straight. Oh yeah. Hey Google, 7 divided by 16.
The answer is approximately 0.4375.
Balls out.
You are about to see that I am absolutely terrible at parting.
Oops. Ah, god damn it. Oh yeah. Fuck. Fuck this.
I just took it to the vise and hacksawed it.
This is just a vent hole. Right there looks good, hey? There, I'm done. It's a coolant reservoir. These are 1/4-inch NPT barbed fittings for air compressor. Those are $6.30 for the pair, and everything else I had. So I'm into this bike for $756.30. So then what you do is you put your little bit of hose on here into the bottom of the reservoir, and then as it overflows it can go in there. That's what the vent hole's for, is push the air out. Coolant goes in, and then as it cools down it sucks the coolant back up. Like that little thing. That wheel didn't turn out half bad either. I think that's going to look cool at the end of a 45 over. I plan to get a little bit narrow of a tire for this thing. Machining aluminum just makes the biggest mess ever. My lathe is just a disaster. Actually, the whole garage is a disaster. What happened in here?